Welcome back to my vessel of light. Tonight begins with a wrong delivery that refused to be wrong, a package with no sender, a label that named a receiver as he, and a choice that rearranged time. Nia Calder found the parcel leaning against her door after rain, brown paper softened, cotton string tied twice, no return address, a barcode smudged by weather. The courier slit-marked recipient verified, though she had signed nothing. Her building superintendent said it appeared during a short outage. Cameras blinked and forgot. Lights flickered and learned again. The parcel waited like a patient animal. The slip listed receiver as the impossible and somehow accurate. Inside her apartment, Nia dried the paper with a towel and a warm fan. The label felt older than the box. Her name never appeared. She decided to open nothing until attention learned to breathe. She brewed tea and read the slip again. Sender missing, receiver heed, delivery confirmed. She turned the card over and found a tiny embossed symbol shaped like a keyhole, small enough to require permission before meaning. She texted her friend Mira, lover of tidy mysteries and practical hope. Lara said the post office would redirect if asked kindly, then added a second thought. Sometimes wrong deliveries are invitations dressed as errors. Nia placed the parcel on the table and watched how light sat on it. The paper absorbed brightness rather than reflecting. Like a page waiting for ink, she wrote 3 lines on a card and waited. Open carefully after water. Return respectfully if not yours. Listen first. The card felt like a kindness form for the afternoon. She set a timer for 10 minutes and held the cup, steam teaching patience without speeches. When the timer finished, she slid a butter knife under the knot and lifted the string. The bow remembered release. Inside waited a wooden box with a sliding lid. Cedar smell carrying histories without demanding biography. She opened the lid and found 2 things. A folded map of the neighborhood marked with a circle at the river steps, and a small envelope stamped with the keyhole symbol. Inside lay a thin metal token. The token matched the symbol, a keyhole without a key. Flat like a coin, heavier than it looked. The map carried a handwritten time in pencil. Today at 3:17, not a threat, a schedule. Nia checked the clock and exhaled slowly. An hour to decide whether to obey a box that entered without an invitation. Fear of scams whispered from old articles. A different voice said sometimes appointments arrive gently. She left the wooden lid open like a window and packed a bottle of water, the token, and the map, then slid the parcel back into the paper and tied the string again. Gratitude for borrowed objects. On the walk to the river, she noticed the city behaving like choreography. Green lights appeared when her breath steadied. A cyclist signaled early. A bus paused exactly long enough to let an elderly couple cross with dignity. At the steps, she found a bench warmed by weak sun. The map's circle matched the 3rd landing. She sat and waited. Nothing dramatic. The river kept its sentence. A gull argued politely with wind and lost. At 3:17, a courier approached carrying an identical parcel and a clipboard that held no addresses. He asked for he, voice careful. Nia said the receiver was missing and present, then handed him the wooden box instead. The courier nodded with relief, like a person allowed to finish a task. He slid her token against a reader on his bag. The device chimed twice. He said return verified, sender unresolved, then gestured toward the water. From his bag, he removed a second envelope marked with the same keyhole and offered it. He said recipients sometimes return to themselves. Then he left before explanations could get noisy and pretend they were necessary. Nia opened the envelope and found a single card. The first line read, "Your name returns to you when you stop outsourcing its pace." The second line read, "Deliver this message to yourself every morning before screens." She laughed quietly at the kindness and the assignment and the audacity. She held the token to the afternoon light and saw a faint engraving, a map of her block, a dot marked home as if patient. On the back of the card, a different instruction waited: place the token in the package and send it to the nearest address that looks like yours but is not you. Then listen to what returns without postage. Nia walked through the row of stoops that mirrored her own building. At number 47 lived a neighbor she'd only waved to, an older man with tidy hats named Arlen, a person who respected mornings. She knocked and explained the wrong delivery. Arlen listened like a lake listens. He said once a month a parcel travels the street like a slow game of musical chairs. Each house returns something that weighs less after passing. He invited her to place the token inside the wooden box again, tape the lid, and write a sentence on the paper. "What are you ready to carry home?" She wrote the question and felt its temperature. They walked together to the mailbox on the corner and slid the parcel into the slot. Arlen tipped his hat and said wrong deliveries correct maps that lost courage. Then he returned to his tea and quiet window. That night, Nia slept with the envelope under the lamp and the map on the wall. She set an alarm named Gentle Return and woke before it. The street sounded new only because she listened with better practice. At noon, a knock delivered a different parcel, smaller and wrapped in blue tissue. No label, inside sat her original token and a note clipped with a tiny magnet. "Try the cabinet you never opened before lunch." She walked to the tall cabinet in the hallway that held nothing but later. Inside an old shoebox waited a stack of letters she had written to herself during a difficult year, addressed to future Nia with hopeful handwriting. She read one and felt grief exhale, not a collapse, a soft release. The letter asked her to eat on time, drink water, and decline one extra task politely. She placed the token beside the stack like a witness. In the evening, Myra visited with a gentle skepticism and a bakery bag. They opened another letter together. The lines sounded like recipes for belonging. Myra said this delivery system feels like a neighborhood kindness between strangers and versions. Over the next week, small parcels continued, each time the token left and returned with one instruction that made life lighter by a shade. Meet yourself at the plant stand and buy a leaf that forgives forgetting. One note said, place your running shoes by the door and walk without tracking. Another said, set the kettle before deciding. Water reorders arguments silently. Another said, leave a seat empty at your table tonight and see who arrives. Sometimes nothing arrived beyond the quiet satisfaction of following a kind ritual. Sometimes a neighbor waved unexpectedly and offered a memory. Sometimes a lost earring returned inside a tiny envelope without explanation, tiny logistics of mutual care. On Thursday, a heavier box appeared with careful handwriting. It contained a small scale, a blank card, and a wooden stamp with the keyhole. The card instructed, weigh your yes and your no and stamp only what belongs. Nia weighed a request she dreaded and found it heavier than her week could hold. She wrote a kind decline and stamped the corner. The ink smelled faintly like cedar and relief. The door felt lighter after decision. At the park, she met Arlen again, and they exchanged updates like polite weather. He said once a parcel delivers pace, it begins delivering names. He handed her a flimsy tag stamped recipient. then pointed at her reflection in the fountain. Mia realized the system had been training her to return the package not to a stranger, but to the part of herself that signs responsibly. Receiver was he had meant the steadier voice inside, patient like a careful neighbor. Later, a courier left a final wooden box with a lid that refused to slide until she placed both hands on it and breathed. Inside waited her original brown paper, retied with cotton string, ready for one last address. The note inside said, "Send to the person who taught you a small kindness you still practice." Mia wrote Myra's address and tucked a leaf from the forgiving plant into the folds, then walked to the post office. At the counter, the clerk recognized the keyhole and smiled the small smile of people who have seen many versions of the same miracle and never needed press releases. He stamped the parcel gently as if blessing it. On the way home, Mia stopped by number 47 and left a tiny loaf of bread on Arlen's step with a thank you card. He opened the door before she finished turning and saluted the afternoon with his hat. The following morning, the token did not return. The mailbox offered only ordinary letters and one flyer. She felt a flutter of absence, then remembered the first card's instruction: deliver this message to yourself every morning before screens. She brewed tea and spoke aloud the lines she had begun to believe. Water before screens, light before conclusions, kindness before speed. She felt the day arrange itself around those anchors like furniture around a well-loved rug. That afternoon, a final envelope arrived without a token. Inside was a receipt printed on thick paper. Sender listed as missing corrected to learning. Receiver listed as he corrected to I. Comments field listed returned to herself successfully. Mia placed the receipt inside the wooden box and closed the lid, then wrote one more card for the wall. Wrong deliveries can be guides when you refuse to perform gratitude and instead practice it quietly. She walked to the river steps and sat where the first circle had invited her to wait. The benches knew her now. The goal practiced failure with style. The water kept time. Her name sounded accurate inside her chest. If a package arrives that seems wrongly addressed and annoyingly persistent, consider that the sender might be a braver version of you. Try returning it kindly and see what weight it drops on the way back. Thank you for being here with my vessel of light. If this story kept you company, like the video so the candle travels farther. Subscribe to my vessel of light and share one kindness you will return to yourself this week.